Hey, y'all. How you doing? We're back for some late night tarot. Y'all know me. This message is going to find you in divine time whenever it is meant to find you. We're going to roll the astro dice and see what sign needs this the most whenever it catches them. And then we're going to roll the other two astro dice just to see if there's any other placements that it might be significant for, even if it's not like your main sign. So the sign is Gemini. It is your day, Gem. All right. What other placements may be significant? Third house and Mercury. Well, Gem, it's all you. The third house is your house, and Mercury is your ruler. So totally Gemini in this reading. You may also have Mercury in the third house or have Gemini ruling your third house, which would make you an Aries rising. All right. So we're going to start with the Harrow and see what is going on. I've also got my energy alignment deck and my hand-drawn cards. I've got the Field Tarot and the Elemental Wisdom Tarot and the Fairy Oracle by Brian Froud for guidance. So what is going on, Gem? What is going on for Gemini and energy, or Aries rising? What is going on? Or even people who have Mercury in the third. All right. What is going on? Mercury is also ruled by Virgo, so you could have a Virgo third house. You could be a Virgo third house and be a Cancer rising. So we'll see. You will know if it resonates. What is going on? Okay. Bottom of the deck is the Brass Dwarf. Top of the deck is the Winged Serpent. So if you are catching this, I feel like you, whether you are the Gemini or cross-watching for one, I feel like you, the viewer, are in a position of power. And if you're cross-watching for a Gemini who clearly is in a position of power, then that's just divine confirmation for it. But there's some divine guidance going on, and what feels like an unbreakable person. Let me read some of these little blips for you. Harrow, for those of you who don't know, is from the world of Pathfinder and their D&D cards, but they work exceptionally well in real life readings. So the Winged Serpent, which is on top, is a lawful good card. It's a powerful being. Knowledge and prudence are separate keeps bridged by understanding. The 𝗏𝗏 represents this bridge, knowing whether now is the time to strike. Okay. I feel like that's the divine energy going on. And this sense of timing. The sense of waiting for the right time. The Brass Dwarf is a lawful neutral card. So it's all divine order on the top and bottom of the deck with the lawful alignments. The Brass Dwarf shows an Azure who represents invulnerability to a current danger. Although others might fall, he remains hale and strong. The Brass Dwarf can also mean a failure or dark fate for one, which in turn might save all others around him from a greater danger. And the Teamsters under that with the sickness. So if you're catching this reading, you may be safe from, divinely safe and protected from someone who is not well. Someone who is in a state of dis-ease, rolling snake eyes, all-time low, being whipped or controlled by karma, or they're about to be. Because I don't think that you are in any danger whatsoever. Someone is about to get eclipsed out by their demons. And if there's hidden truth being kept from someone, I feel like someone is unlocking something that shows just how deep the tangles go. That's interesting. All right. So we have three different energies out here. We've got the Tyrant reversed with the Publican, the Owl with the Lost in reverse, and the Waxworks with the Liar. All right. Let's get just a couple cards to further clarify these. This is my energy alignment deck. Give me the Tyrant with the Publican. Because the Tyrant's reversed. All right. And give me the Owl with the Lost. The Lost in reverse. Give me the Owl with the Lost, please. Give me one more. All right. And give me the Waxworks with the Liar. Give me one more. Okay. Authentic is on top and the Shadow Martyr is on the bottom. The reverse side of Martyr is capable. Give me an archetypal energy with these. All right. Someone's going through a major healing. Clarify the Owl. That's too many. Clarify the Owl with the Lost in reverse. All right, and clarify the Waxworks with the Liar. Okay. The Scissors are on top and the Broken Mind is on bottom. One of the two, the other is on the board. These are the two Broken Mind cards that I had. All right. So they're both out here. Which is interesting because this is talking about in general where someone has a shadow person right in front of them, but registers them as an angel, right? Only seeing their potential, believing in their goodness, but they are quite literally a shadow person, right? They're deceptive. Someone's mind is deceiving them. about said person. And with the scissors on the bottom, there's some kind of cut being made because alchemizing is happening. Someone's coming out of the eclipse. They've been in the forge with the mirror. Ooh, I'm just peeking at the bottom. I'm peeking at the bottom of the deck. Someone's going through the healing, and it's a mirror. They've been up against a wall with their demons. So major overall energies. So the first person in total, let me show you all the different cards that came out for them. We've got the Star, the Tyrant in the reverse, and the Publican. With healthy communication skills and judgmental of others, ignores self-improvement in reverse, which means they're working on self-acceptance. All right, these are the cards that they have. This is person or energy number 1. All right. The Tyrant in the reverse. The Tyrant is lawful evil. So being misaligned, it would be chaotic good. In its upright position, it indicates a ruler who is a blight upon those ruled. The dragon might indicate a monarch, overseer, or a head of household. Whoever this person is, he does harm to those over whom he holds sway, whether he realizes it or not. Misaligned, it might show a tyrant revealed or dethroned. Hey, Lala, how are you? And the Publican is like almost like a comrade. It's someone that you feel like you could trust talking to. So with this energy, yeah, the Publican is also chaotic good. Represents fellowship and camaraderie. It's a place of refuge for those in need. Most would find the Cyclops inconsequential, but he has insights relevant to the reading. So whoever this person is, I feel like they've been humbled. Okay. They've been humbled by the divine energy at play. They probably do want to communicate, but they're working on self-accepting. So they may still be they may still be dealing with an ego or pride issue because this is a crown chakra card. So to have it in reverse, they might not necessarily be seeing the entire bigger picture of themselves yet. They're going through the healing though. So they're definitely being humbled. They definitely have some kind of good intention behind whatever shadow is blaring loud in their mind. They might still be angry or frustrated at somebody else if they haven't realized themselves as the cause of their own problems yet. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks. Yeah, but someone is healing. Now, that's person number 1. The second person, the cards that came out for them, we have the Fish and the Owl, the Lost in the reverse, Real Diamond, and Depression and Self-Loathing in the reverse, which means this person is working on their feeling loving and lovable. Okay, these are the cards that came out for person number 2. The Fish is all about diving deep to find the value at the bottom. So this person, the Real Diamond, has probably gone through quite an ordeal. They are definitely coming out of a depression or coming out of self-loathing, which is a state of like not forgiving the self for making mistakes. They're definitely coming into this vibration of wanting to be loving, like open to love. I feel like they're opening to loving themselves as well and realizing that they are a lovable person. Okay. The Owl and the Lost are both wisdom cards. The Owl is a neutral card. The Lost in reverse is going to be lawful good because it's chaotic evil and it's upright. So the Owl, it represents the eternal wisdom of natural order and the harsh realism that causes a pack of wolves to cull the weak in the herd. It is tragic for the culled deer, but through such actions, the herd grows stronger. The needle the owl holds binds life together, but just as easily can pick that life apart. I think that this person understands the reason behind the process of things, why certain things had to transpire when they were in a state of weakness in order for them to become stronger, right? That they were in a dynamic ship with someone because their spiritual flaws, their shadows needed to have that light shown on them. And so I feel like this person sees the bigger picture. With the Lost in the reverse, they're letting go of emptiness and finding themselves. They might feel incredibly sane in what now really does look like an insane world. Okay, so whoever this energy has woken up. This person has clarity of mind. And if they were presented with a situation that would have triggered them before in the past or triggered up their shadows before in the past, I don't think those shadows are present anymore. So what they maybe had a hard time dealing with, I don't think it would faze them now. I think this person clearly knows who they are. I think this person has a very clear and sound mind. And considering 99% of the world is asleep to themselves and, you know, rather finger point or find escapes, I think this person has taken a lot of self-accountability. I think they've released blame from other people that they've been in sad or traumatic or unfortunate circumstances in the past with. I think this person found themselves. I think they went real deep. Like they're the real diamond. You know what I mean? Like that's the card that they came out with, that came flying out first. This person knows that they're a lovable person and they're open to being loving. This is not, they're not sad. Like they may have felt through sadness. They may have faced the anger at the self. And they're not there anymore. Like they sat with it and they processed through it. So whoever the second energy is, they know their value. They might have been blind to it before, but they're not now. And if anything, they're letting go of the regretful energy of not seeing their value sooner. But this person is more sane than people might think. They see more clearly, especially in the dark, right? Because owls are a nocturnal animal. This person sees in the shadows really, really clearly. And I don't think they have any problem just kind of, because I'm being shown that imagery of like a hawk hunting mice in the dark, you know, like without making a sound, like mice are thieving energy, metaphorically. And so I think that person number 2 would eat shadows for breakfast kind of thing. This person's wide awake. Whoever the owl is wide awake. Okay, wide awake. The third energy got the following cards. Okay, they came out with the broken mind, the crossroad, the waxworks, and the liar, with threatening as the shadow and the upright, and sensual. So these are the cards of the third energy. This person, whoever or whatever it is, doesn't see the angel for who they are right in front of them. They have an angel in their midst. They don't see it. They're in a survival state. Like when it comes to people, they view everybody as a threat. Like they don't trust anybody. They always think someone has ulterior motives. They always think that someone's lying. They always think that someone's keeping something secret. They always think that someone is taking advantage of them for something. And so I feel like any dynamic with them is going to be contractual, and they're stuck there. And they're stuck there. Like this person's mind is broken. They don't perceive clearly. Hey, Lorraine, good morning. Yeah, they don't see it. The Waxworks is a chaotic evil card. And the Liar is a chaotic evil card. So this person has double chaotic evil on the board. And this is someone, like chaotic evil energy inside of people actually like gets excited or thrives off of watching other people in pain, especially if they caused it. Doesn't matter if they're an angel, they like to see them in pain because they assume they have a hidden motive, or they assume they're keeping secrets, or they assume they're taking advantage of them in some way, or that they're using them in some way. So to watch someone in pain and be at their disposal, right? That their pain is at their disposal, that they're in control of someone else's pain. They kind of like get off on it, like the power trip of it, because it's almost like they're punishing them for something that they think they did, but might have never done. You know, like this person's Delulu. The Waxworks is a place of helplessness and physical entropy. The mind might be willing, but the flesh is frozen in this place of horror. It is also the card of torture and imprisonment, signifying literal inability to move or a paralysis of a more prosaic kind. The Liar is love at its most treacherous. This is not the love that moves mountains. This is the love that rips the heart in two and causes lovers to leap to their deaths. This Lamia can mean obsession, unrequited passion, or doomed love. So whoever this is, and to be fair, it might be the energy that's interfering, not necessarily a person, but the energy interfering with the first and second energy actually coming together. Because the Tyrant's healing, right? The Tyrant's in reverse. This person, whoever the first person is, this is just one way you could take the cards. The first person may have been in that chaotic evil energy and actually wanted to see the owl in pain, wanted to see them hurt, because on some level they were in some way they were in like a self-protect mode, because they were broken and couldn't see the angel that the owl is, the real diamond, right in front of them. And the owl might have needed them in that energy at the time in order to see their value, right? But the reality is the owl was always the angel, you know? And so person number one may have been very stuck at the time and viewed them as a threat, like someone who could threaten their well-being or could hurt them. You know, if you're really an angel, like you say you are, then, you know, yeah, I could be open to loving you, but I don't believe that angels exist. I believe that everybody has a motive. I believe that everybody is underhanded. You know, I believe that everybody is out to hurt me because that's what life has taught me. And so they were viewing person number two as a threat. And I think it left person number two hurt for a while, but I think they've moved beyond it. I think they've become stronger because of it. This person may also have been very lustful, or I'm getting this kind of, it gets them in like their feels, but through a sexual, someone who uses emotions and tie people in. And they were definitely lying to themselves, right? The liars here. This person was paralyzed in their own delusion and stuck, okay? The first person might be starting to see person number two differently, but the issue might still be the third energy that they're kind of filtering through. Especially because they were judgmental of others, right? That's the shadow being released, judgmental of others, and ignores self-improvement. This person wasn't taking any self-accountability, person number one, right? They're working on self-acceptance. They still might not be taking any accountability for themselves. And the fact that they were maliciously hurting or enjoying watching someone suffer for them who genuinely had no ulterior motive, who genuinely cared about them, right? They were the real diamond, like the real deal. And I don't think they've seen it yet. Like person number one might not actually have seen it yet. So if they want to communicate to the owl, right, healthy communication skills, if they want to heal and communicate with the owl, they're going to have to get through the delusion that person number two would have ever hurt them. They're going to have to self-own and take accountability for why the dynamic ship between the two of them maybe fell apart. Because right now they're still blaming. You know, it'd be like a person like who is not right up there, you know, like maybe they're narcissistic, maybe they're sociopathic, you know, maybe they're not right, you know. They've been through some shit in life and they're not right. And they might have wanted the owl to continue to suffer, to prove the genuine energy, to prove the value, to prove the love. But what they don't realize is that they were actually enjoying the owl suffering for them. So they were perpetuating it, you know, they were continuing it. It would have went on with no end, and the owl didn't actually deserve it. Like the owl deserved their own value reciprocated. The owl deserved an angel, and this person was in chaotic evil energy. And so they might still, you know, be holding a grudge against the owl for, you know, leaving them or something. You know what I mean? Like, because the owl really truly did not deserve to be hurt by this person. The owl was genuine, right? Real deal. In the event that this is 3 people and not 2 people with a third energy, although it's the mirror that we deal with, right, in life, the tyrant person who's going through the healing may have ended up with someone in the third energy where they don't see the beautiful energy that was right in front of them, because the tyrant may have been giving all of that beautiful, you know, genuine love energy that they could have, should have, would have given to the owl to a third person. And the third person is paralyzed in their own fear. They view everybody as a threat. They're absolutely stuck. They make connections through lustful means or sexual means to get people tied in. They're dishonest. They're manipulative, right? The liar is manipulative. It's almost like the first person would be dealing with their shadow inside of another person in the outer to kind of get that perspective as to what the owl was dealing with. Because if that is the case, then person number 1 genuinely cared about the third person like person number 2 cared about them. And they're being hurt by the third person like person number 2 was hurt by them, where there was no genuine malintent to ever hurt the other person. You know, like person number 2 never had any malintent to ever hurt person number 1. And person number 1 might have never genuinely had any malintent to hurt person number 3. And so it's like person number 3 is learning that angels do exist because they are one for person number 3. And so if they exist as an angel, why is it impossible that person number 2 could have also been an angel, but for them, you know? And so I think that there's this interesting dynamic going on in the mirror with 3 different people. So one person is healing and one person is, do I dare say, healed, because they've definitely have found themselves and gone through the work like real diamond value. So, and if we're talking about the overall, right, this is authentic and the martyr that was on the top and bottom of the energy alignment deck, right? Something needs to get cut off. And it's this energy, right, with the scissors and the broken mind, this version of the card. What needs to get cut off is the fact that we see a shadow person and register them as an angel, because person number 2 probably saw the beautiful angel energy potential in person number 1. But they weren't getting it. The face value reality, right? We're talking about Gemini energy. The face value reality of the mirror is that they were dealing with someone's demons, though. Like they had the angel potential in them, but they were only getting the demon. And person number 1 is doing the same thing with whoever or whatever the third energy is, right? They were seeing the beautiful angel potential in person number 3, but they're really only getting the demon, right? They're only getting the stuck shadow. They're not getting the angel. If you take people for face value, person number 2 is an angel energy and person number 1 is capable of it. Person number 2 saw it the whole time. They just didn't receive it because they were stuck. Person number 1 was stuck in the third energy. So I think that what really needs to get cut off is pretending that people are what they aren't and taking people for face value. Like they're not an angel if they're acting in shadow and they're manipulative and they're lying and they're threatened and they're evil, like chaotic evil, and they're getting off on the fact that you're in pain because you must be doing something that they just don't know about. And so it brings them pleasure to see you hurting or upset or taking psychological distress on, you know, like to take losses, to bend over backwards for them, to prove something that is you can't prove it. There's no amount of proving someone can do to someone's shadows if they're not ready to see their own light and what they deserve. You know, if someone doesn't feel deserving or worthy, that they don't deserve it, well, they're going to sabotage it. They're going to try and push that person away. And then when the person actually gets pushed away, they're going to blame them. Oh, you didn't love me genuinely like you said you did because now you're leaving. And it's like, no, you were fucking awful. Like, you know, like, I don't know how much you want me to prove the fact that I love you and care about you and I was genuine the entire time. Like, I'm taking a fucking beating, you know, whether it's a financial beating, a literal physical beating, an emotional beating, a mental beating, psychological beating. Like, you know, how much do you expect someone who is genuinely valuable, who's real, how much do you expect them to take? Like, you just expect them to get beat on forever? Because it's an improvable point if you've got unhealed shadows. So I think that person number one might most definitely have been in the third energy while they were with person number two, and they gave whatever good energy or good love they had to someone who was completely stuck, just like they were with person number two. So let's see what's going on. We're going to start with the Elemental Wisdom Tarot. What is going on, Spirit? Because there's divine order at play. Like, don't forget, the Winged Serpent and the Brass Dwarf were on the top and bottom of the deck. And I feel like whoever is divinely protected, it's definitely person number two. Like, they're not being affected or hurt by whatever the process, the healing process is between the first and third energy. I feel like they're good. They're clear. They've done the work. They'd eat the shadows for breakfast, right? Like, they're unscathed in this. But everybody else might be falling because of it, right? That Brass Dwarf energy. The Four of Wands. This may have been a really high soul contract, to be completely fair, for those of you who are on the twin flame journey. Like, and I say that word with caution because I know how people feel about it now. But this could have definitely been a twin flame dynamic that was really karmic. You may have even lived together at one point, 10 of Coins, or planned on it. Or there's some kind of living or family situation was involved. 6 of Wands and the 8 of Cups. Like, someone felt that it was a victory. Someone, person number two, I'm going to call it like I see it. Person number two felt like it was a twin flame dynamic with the first person. They may have been living together. They might have considered it a huge victory. And then 8 of Cups had to move on. They had to move on. Why? It took everything in them to move on. They had to seize the opportunity to move while they still could. The Lover's card is out here, clarifying the 4 of Wands. Like, this was definitely a really high soulmate. Yeah, the 10 of Coins is clarified by the 5 of Cups. Like, the home wasn't happy. They weren't happy. Six of Wands, 7 of Cups. Like, they got the victory, but it ended up really confusing them. It wasn't what they thought it was going to be. Like, they had high hopes. Person number two had high hopes. And it just wasn't bearing the fruit. And the 8 of Cups hits with the Tower. Like, moving on might have happened randomly one day. Ace of Wands is in the reverse. They realized that the love or the passion wasn't there. They might have felt like there was foul play. That someone was an opportunist. Yeah, the sun in reverse. Yeah, they realized that their light was being drained off. I feel like that was a hard pill to swallow. Because if that's the case, then person number 2, like their ego, their pride, their connection, their strength, like they wanted to roar in defense of their connection with person number 1. But person number 1 was draining them because they were in the 3rd energy. King of Swords was on bottom. They might have been cold and analytical. Justice is on top. With the 5 of Swords. This is someone who was blind to what they were doing. They were causing arguments. I'm getting like dark empath energy, and it was a one-way give. It was a one-way give. The 6 of Coins and the High Priestess are under that. They had secrets. They were seeking energy from anywhere they could get it. And the Owl had to move forward. It was a missed opportunity. And then they started putting in the work. King of Cups, they started diving deep. They took a break, 4 of Swords, and found their high masculine energy and married their faith, like Emperor and Hierophant. I'm telling you, the Owl got real clear. But they left this person because the first person was not creating a happy home environment or a happy dream. You know, person number 2 had a highly idealized vision of what it could be in the highest good, right? The highest potential if person number 1 was healed with them. But the reality was person number 1 was stuck, right? They were stuck in this Delulu kind of place where they weren't seeing the angel that was right in front of them. They weren't seeing the value of the person right in front of them. They weren't registering the genuine energy, the genuine love that person number 2 was giving them. And they fucked it up. They sabotaged it. They sabotaged it. 3 of Swords. Really, that's the top of the deck. Justice. With the 5 of Swords and the 3 of Swords and the Hermit. And the Devil. This person might have also had serious addictions and may have been more money or mundane focus and kept person number 2 striving for some kind of ideal where they kept changing the line. You know, like, well, if you just meet this expectation, you'll be good enough. But as soon as that expectation was met, it was like the line moved. And it's like, well, you have to meet this expectation. And so person number 2 did that. And they're like, oh, well, you also have to meet this expectation. And person number 2 is like, you keep moving the line. Like, you keep moving the line. I'm never going to be good enough if you keep doing that. And you're using, you know, it as an excuse to not love me back. You know, I think person number 2 ultimately saw the game being played for what it was. It's a shadow game, which is, I think, ultimately why the Tower hit with the 8 of Cups and someone moved on, because it wasn't fulfilling. They had gotten the dream, the 4 of Wands with the Lovers. They had gotten, you know, everything they thought they wanted, only to get it and realize that they were sad. They were probably dealing with depression, having a hard time forgiving themselves at the time for even wanting to be with such a person. There was no growth there with the 7 of Coins. And they were confused. They were confused because they really did love or care about the first energy, that first person. And they were seeing the signs. Someone was really immature and attention seeking. Someone wasn't putting in the energy. The Ace of Wands in the reverse, that's a false start. It's no ignition. So they probably went into it with person number 1 thinking there was going to be progress, only for it to be a false start, and there's no ignition. Like, there's nothing moving. And they had to humble themselves and move forward because they were just They were the sun in reverse. They were the light. Like the sun is the greatest blessing inside the tarot. And they had to accept the fact that their light was just being siphoned off. That person number one was damaged beyond anything that their love could repair. It requires person number one's choosing to heal. What else is going on? What else is going on? She gave me 2 decks for a reason, Spirit. So what else is going on? Where is person number one right now? Where is person number one right now? Because they are going through a healing process. They just might still be dealing with that shadow. The 6 of Swords, the 7 of Swords, and the 10 of Discs. The Hanged Man's on bottom. And Justice is on top. You could seriously be dealing with a Libra or someone with strong Piscean energy. The High Priestess is under that. That's seriously Piscean energy. Temperance is under that. Sag energy might be significant. This person right now is deep inside their 12th house. They're alchemizing their fears. They're being put in a place of introspection. And they're seeing the night and day, right? They're seeing the stark difference in the reality. And they're being tested to defend themselves against pain, against sorrow. This person might have always had a fear of loss, which is why they manifested it with person number 2. They might have been afraid that it would be genuine and that they would lose it. And so they forced it away before it ever had a chance to start, really start, even if they were together for a while. It never really started, right? The Ace of Wands and the reverse. And so it's almost like they have to take a loss, especially if they are involved with a third person who is showing them their shadow and what it must have been like to be them and deal with them. They might have to explore their strength and instead of fearing the loss, tackle the healing and accept the disappointment in order to move forward. They're going to have to take the loss just like person number 2 did and retreat into their Empress energy, just how person number 1 retreated into, or person number 2 retreated into their masculine energy and found that Hierophant Emperor type energy. They came into their power and they started making better choices in faith. This person is learning their receptive feminine energy. They're learning how to listen to their intuition. They're learning how to read the energy about what feels good and taking things at face value. They're learning how to become a receiver of the high manifestation, but that requires loss of the low manifestation, including the addictions. If they have addictions, especially addictions to certain soulmates or pain surrounding them or toxic partners, like they're not receiving any love from a toxic partner. If they are with a third party, like a person, like energy number 3, if they're with a third party, they're not receiving any love from this person. This person is outright hurting them on purpose. Like approve that you love me, approve that, you know, you're genuine, but it's someone who is constantly moving the line just the same as they were. They would have to recognize it and let it go, you know, and let go of the idea that person number 2 was at fault for leaving them, because this person, like I said, they haven't quite self-accepted yet. They haven't self-owned yet. Yeah, the Empress just fell out with the Ace of Cups in the reverse. Person number 1 is not receiving any love right now. They're not receiving any love right now. If they are in a third party dynamic, they're not receiving love right now. Yeah, the Ten of Discs with the Lovers in the reverse and the King of Swords. There was someone who doesn't love them. The Ten of Discs, that's the home. So if they're living with someone or have a family with someone, the Lovers in the reverse, they don't love them. They're cold and calculating, right? The King of Swords, cold and calculating. The Nine of Swords is on the bottom. They're in high anxiety. They might be having dreams. Justice again on top. Really, the King of Swords and Justice. It's out for both decks. They're afraid of change. They're afraid of standing up for themselves. They're afraid of taking the lead in their life. All they've ever known is pain. That's why they rejected the love from person number 2. All they've ever known is pain. Angels aren't real, right? To them, like, angel people aren't real. That's a fantasy, but it's not. Like, person number 2 was fucking real. They know they have to alchemize. So I feel like person number 1 is also at a crossroads, because they might not be seeing, they still might not be seeing person number 2 for the angel that they are. They might still be battling their demons that are registering them as a demon and holding a grudge, or blaming them or holding anger at them for moving on or leaving the situation. Because they were a tyrant. They were a liar, and they were paralyzed in their own shadow, in their own broken mind place. Person number 1 hasn't accepted it just yet. I feel like they're on that path to self-realization. But people can stagnate anywhere they want. So I'm not saying that, you know, person number 1 is going to heal or come around. I'm saying they're going through a brutal mirror. And the only way they're going to actually heal things with person number 2 is if they stop blaming person number 2 for their own brokenness and take accountability for what they did and accept the fact that what they did was fucking awful. What they did, how they treated person number 2 was fucking awful. Like, person number 2 didn't deserve it, period. And until they accept that, they're going to continue to suffer in whatever reality they're in. Like I said, person number 2 is unscathed. They've healed. They're opening up to being loving again, but maybe with someone else. You know what I mean? If person number 1 is stagnating, person number 2 is unscathed. They're healed. They're clear on who they are. They're eating shadows for breakfast. They dove deep. They have real value coming to them in life. Communication is definitely needed. I mean, we had Gemini, the 3rd house, and Mercury come out on the dice. Like, communication is needed. But I think if person number 1 is still blaming or having some weird notion that person number 2 was false with them or is to blame, it's gonna it's going to shut for good kind of thing. Like if there is one more communication potential left to resolve it and heal it, they cannot move forward with that conversation with a chip on their shoulder at person number 2 for no fucking reason. Because it is for no reason. I don't think person number 2 had any malintent, any desire to hurt or harm person number 1 ever. Like real diamond. They were the angel. And person number 2 can't lose sight of that fact. That person number 1, they saw their potential, but they were receiving the demon. Like person number 2, I think they'll see it really clearly. If person number 1 is still blaming person number 2 legit, because they can lie and say that they don't all that they want, you know, and try and put on some fucking show. But at the end of the day, person number 2 would see right through that shadow. Person number 2 knows their value now. Like there was a blessing in this whole thing, and person number 2 got it first. They didn't want to move on. They didn't want to leave person number 1. They looked at person number 1 like they were a divine counterpart. They did not want to leave person number 1. They left because they felt like they had no other choice to. They were suffering for no reason. They were being punished and tested for no reason. It wasn't fair. It wasn't fair. What's the guidance? What's the guidance? That is way, way, way too many. That's a whole nother reading, Spirit. Give me one. Give me one. I gotta hold these cards different. Give me one card. 2 tops. Come on. It is like almost 3 o'clock in the morning here. What is the guidance? Chunk. What is the guidance? I think someone has a lot to say. Person number 1 has a lot to say. If they have a lot to say to person number 2, they can't come at person number 2 incorrect. It's like person number 2 would hang up the phone and never answer ever again. You know what I mean? Like they cannot come at person number 2 and be blaming them on some level. They have to self-actualize, self-realize, self-acknowledge, self-own, self-heal. They have to forgive themselves for ever thinking that person number 2 was anything other than the diamond that they were. They have to accept the fact that they were horrible to this person. They don't want to face themselves yet. Sylvanius. That's a powerful card. It's card number 34. 3 is the number of ascension and ascended masters. 4 is the number of stability and archangels, which adds up to the 7. Which is divine miracle and divine intervention. Sylvanius. Keywords are truth, cutting through deception, and clarity. Brian called this painting the mask of truth, true dreaming. Sylvanius, who holds the mask of truth, is lord of the woodlands, his crown of antler branches signifying his authority. He presents the mask to us, supported by the fairy of aspiration, as she welcomes us to our own potential. We wear the mask to look inward, seeing our true selves, not our false and fearful selves, but the beings of light that we truly are, and what we have the potential to be. It becomes very difficult for us to make excuses and blame others for our failures and fears once we have seen what we could be if we were willing. What, in fact, we already are, but are not quite living up to. I thought it was very odd that there was a mask of truth. It seemed to me that we use masks to hide the truth rather than reveal it. Oh no, Sylvanus assured. First, you put the mask on and hide, and then you take it off to reveal the truth. Very fairy. I see, I said. Not certain I did, but not sure I wanted to either. Besides, Sylvanus continued, your face is not your truth. Sometimes faces need to be hidden so truth can be seen. Or sometimes you need to make a crack in consciousness, an aha moment, in order to see a truth you have been blind to. From before the time we were born, people have been projecting their ideas, hopes, fears, and confusions on us. As we grow up, we accept many of these untrue projections as our reality, our partly false, partly true picture of ourselves. Brian wrote, the fairy, Kundrun, holds one of the many sacred swords of fairyland. This one, forged long ago by mysterious dwarves, is laid across the cliff of the other world as a bridge to fairyland. We talked about the bridge with the winged serpent and the dwarf. Those were the two main cards on the top and bottom of the deck. The two-edged sword symbolizes the union of the human world with the world of Fae, as well as the union of the outer world of nature with the inner world of the psyche. It is the sword of clear-cut understanding and sharp perception. But once we cross into fairy, it becomes the sword of courage and noble service. At this time, you are discovering new truths about yourself. They are essential for you to know in order to create relationships based on mutual respect, affection, and trust. These things can only work if we see ourselves and others as we are. Certainly, both fairy and this world are functioning as a giant mirror in which we see ourselves in many surprising ways. People tend to dread this because we assume that we are worse than we think we are. But this is far from necessarily true. Now is a time for finding out the false and misleading beliefs you have accepted and discovering that you are a better person than you thought and have the potential to accomplish more than you believed you could. If someone says you are better or simply different than you think you are, don't automatically reject this. Think it over carefully. You have more to give and more to enjoy than you have been giving yourself credit for. You know, person number 2 saw the good in person number 1, and person number 1 didn't believe it at the time because they knew they were being awful. But they weren't wrong, because person number 1 ended up being in that exact energy for a third person. They knew they were capable of it. The problem was they weren't seeing people or themselves for who they were. Person number 1 didn't believe they were capable of being the energy of person number 2. But they were. Person number 2 saw them as the angel. They saw the potential in them. Person number 1 needed to see person number 2 for who they really are. That angels do exist. That good intentions with no intent to harm and full compassion and consideration does exist. person number 2 would have gone to any lengths to love and support person number 1, including leaving them. Like, person number 2 left person number 1 as an act of love because person number 1 needed to heal and they were in the way of it. Person number 1 wouldn't have healed if person number 2 stayed in the way and continued to take the damage. Person number 1 needed the mirror. They needed the mirror, right? It was talking about the bridge. It was talking about the mirror. They needed the mirror with person number 3. They would have never healed otherwise. And person number 2 needed to learn their value and see their own worth, that they deserve to be loved, and to not just give love to someone who is clearly showing them shadow and causing them pain. Person number 2 learned really healthy boundaries. They learned their value and they're not going to be treated like less anymore. So in order for this to work, if that is in fact the intention, and whoever is watching this does in fact want to heal back to someone, person number 2 has to trust themselves if person number 1 shows up genuinely self-acknowledged and self-accepting. And person number 1 has to come at person number 2 looking at them for the angel that they actually are and were. Because I don't think the love ability that person number 2 had for person number 1 is dead. I think that person number 2, knowing that their value is what it is, and is opening back up to being loving, right? Because this is in reverse. They're not depressed and self-loathing anymore. They've forgiven themselves. They found love for themselves. They're opening back up to the potential of a relationship, of giving their best energy to someone. They're opening up to that. They're just not going to do it if it's not returned. Like, person number 2 would rather hold out and stay single than fight and battle in the mirror with someone's shadows, someone who doesn't see their value. So if person number 1 did want to communicate with person number 2, person number 1 would have to accept responsibility for what they did and the healing process that needed to take place. Because I think person number 2 would be fully capable of giving them the beautiful light that they gave them before, if they were receiving it in return this time. Especially now that person number 1 knows they're capable of it, especially if they didn't before. Otherwise, this dynamic wouldn't work. If person number 1 decided to stay stuck and view person number 2 as a threat and started making them prove love all over again, I think person number 2 would smell it a mile away and just never get beyond that conversation, that first conversation. I don't think they would cross their fingers and hope this time. You know, if they're eating shadows for breakfast and seeing through the dark, you know, and they're in the owl energy, and they're clear on themselves, they're not lost, they're sane as fuck. I think if they even smelled any kind of bullshit from person number 1, I think they would just kind of regretfully hang up the phone type thing. They would end the conversation or block it out, and that would be it. They would write it off. They would probably move on and find someone else that values them. So if this is that level of soul contract and it's really high and it's not over yet, this is where the dynamic is at. the person who was running before doesn't have to chase now, but they do have to stop running. They do have to walk side by side. And that's just it. It's not about one person chasing the other and one person running and playing the cat and mouse game and the painful games. It's about no one running and no one chasing and walking side by side as angels to each other. Like, to see each other that way, to accept each other that way, and not mistreat each other or test each other into fucking oblivion and keep raising the bar. Like, that's not what it's about. If this has any chance of working at all, like, that's the vibration it would have to go in, or it won't, or it won't, you know. And person number one will have to heal and accept in time and find somebody else to love and accept that person number two is still an angel in their life that helped them find that energy at some point. You know, that they were a catalytic light in their life to help them find mutual, respectful, reciprocal love with someone at some point. They're going to have to forgive themselves either way. They're going to have to accept themselves and choose to be better either way. So, my love and support goes out to you guys. If you're person number two, I think at the end of the day, you're in your power, you're clear on things, you see shadows clearly. I don't think you would ever reconnect with anybody in this life or a past person or a new person. I think if anybody came to you with shadows, I think you would just immediately be turned off by it and write it off. I don't think you would think twice about it or give it another thought. It's just unfortunate that that's where they are and that's where you would leave it. I think that ultimately you'll end up finding someone who is on your level to be reciprocal with you in that beautiful real diamond energy, because you're definitely lovable and you know you have that beautiful loving in you, that lovingness is not dead. I think person number one has a real chance to be in that energy with you. But I think they have just as good of a chance of holding on to their shadows and blaming you and staying angry instead and not taking accountability for themselves. You know, I think it's a 50-50 shot. It could go either way. I think that they're healing. I think they want to heal. It's just a matter of whether or not they let their demons win out. And that's fine, because you will move on and find someone else at some point, and they will have to respectfully do the same. They will have to forgive themselves at some point. They will still have to go through their healing process and learn to love themselves just like you did. Understanding that they are a real diamond now, even if they weren't always, that they are genuinely deserving of good things, and reciprocate with a good person because they could see it clearly now. They could see the green flags and not pretend that they're red ones, you know, and they could possibly have a healthier relationship later on if they didn't heal things with you this time around. Hopefully you both heal with or without each other. Hopefully you both find happiness with or without each other. I don't doubt person number two will. I think person number one is in the air. And I think person number three is far gone. I think that's a karmic catalyst. Whatever the third person is, that energy is it's catalytic. It's catalytic and it's chaotic and it's shadow. So I don't think that energy has any actual role in the dynamic between the first two people here. I think it is strictly a mirror, but that it doesn't actually hold weight or have any place being in the future with the two of you. Regardless of circumstance, whatever the third energy is, that's going to have to be cut out entirely. Person number one would not be able to move forward with person number two and still keep strings attached to the third person if that is in fact a person. It's not going to happen. At the very least, person number one If there are logistics to why person 3 has to stick around, like kids or something, they would have to accept person number 3 for the face value that they are and the shadow that they are, the temptation into sabotage and distraction and the old mirror of themselves that they are. Like person number 3 at some point is going to make them fucking ill, and they're not going to understand how they could have ever been involved with such a person. Like they're going to have to forgive themselves. They're going to have to forgive themselves for being in that energy with person number 2, and they're going to have to forgive themselves for ever being attracted to it to the point that they hurt person number 2, you know, and went full-blown love of that person. Like they're going to have to forgive themselves. I think person number 3 is enough to make anybody sick when you actually see what they really are, like for what they are, when you stop feeding the delusion or the fantasy that they are something that they aren't. The reality of them will make you sick. Like, I can't believe I ever gave my best to that person. I can't believe I wasted time with that person. Like it'll make you ill. Like you'll know person number 1 woke up because person number 3 will make them ill. And they won't be able to stand it genuinely, you know, facing that reality and being reminded of the reality of who they were at their weak moment, you know, in their lowest moment healing. It's going to make them sick. So that's the reading. That's the reading. I have faith that if you can invoke this power of Sylvanius and put on that mask of truth and see yourself and others for who they really are, and forgive yourself for the facades that you've put on in your pain state, and move forward with clarity, I think the truth sets you free, and I think there's a lot to look forward to. And if there is communication, I think that full-blown honesty, no bars held, no details missed, is the way to go. All right. I love you guys. And I will see you next time. Take care, everyone.